So today I'm going to go over about a 20 to 25 minute training on how do you disrupt. Like if you're talking to a prospect and they're already with a company, they're already with a vendor. Let's say if you sell B2B or B2C, it doesn't matter. They already have a company or a vendor they're already using, and let's say they like who they're already using. How do you still penetrate that account? How do you still make that sale? If they're already with another company and they like the other company, how do you get them to unlike the other company enough to be open to going through what you have to offer them that could be better? How do you do that? First of all, go down to the bottom of this video, hit the subscribe button. That's probably important for you. Hit the subscribe button, and to the right of that, or maybe the left, I don't know, somewhere in there, there's like a little bell. That's your notifications button. Hit the notifications button as well so you get notified by YouTube every time I post a new training video, which I typically do 2 to 4 times a week. So how do you disrupt a relationship with a company or even a prospect? So if you're selling B2B, how do you disrupt a relationship with a company you're trying to penetrate? Or if you sell B2C, how do you penetrate a person, an individual who likes the company they already are working with? I know you guys run into prospects every day that could use your services or products, but they're so happy with who they already have, even if they don't know any better, that they could get something better from you, and they emotionally shut down by the way you approach them. So let's stop that from happening. How do you break the trust they have with that company that would cause them to be open to your solution and working with you? So I'm going to give you about 5 to 6 NEPQ questions that are designed to specifically do this. Now, these would primarily be used in your problem awareness questions phase and or your solution awareness stages of the engagement process. Now, if you're one of our clients, you know all of those questions and the stages. If you're not, well, maybe you want to be a client if you want to make a lot more money than you are now. Okay, so I'm going to give you some of these questions. Now, some of them you're only going to be able to use in a B2B setting, and some of them you would only use if you sold B2C. When I go through the differences, I'm going to show you if you're going to use that in a B2B situation compared to if you sell B2C. I'm going to give you a little bit of differences because there are a little bit differences in there. All right, here's the first one. Write this down. This would primarily be B2B right here that I'm going to give you. Mary, can I ask how your idea situation compares to what you have now with company A, with who you're already using? Can I ask how your idea situation compares to what you have now with this company that you're already using? Okay. Now, this question, although it's very basic, it's a surface level question that we then have to probe based off their answers, but it starts to open up the door on what they would actually change and then allows you to clarify and probe more about their challenge or something they don't like. Okay, now here's another one. These are going to get much better as I go here. I actually have about 8 that I wrote down. I told you 5, but I always give you more than when I tell you. I'm just a nice guy over here. So help me understand. You've already reached these big numbers. So let's say that you're talking with a company. Okay, this is mainly a B2B company. That if you're in B2B sales right now that I'm going to show you, then I'm going to show you some B2C examples. Let's say you're talking to a company that's already very successful. Folks, our first B2B client that we had, that we got 4 years ago when we launched 7th Level, was Google AdWords. Okay, we trained 3 of their divisions. Was Google already successful? Did they already reach big numbers and milestones? Hell yes. So this is a question we had to develop to get them to think about what they would change since they were already doing so well. So help me understand, you've already reached these big numbers and milestones. Where do you want to go from here in terms of future improvements in? And then you repeat back the end result of what you offer. And I'm going to show you how to do this. All right, so let me go through this again. So John, help me understand. I mean, you guys have already reached these big numbers and crazy milestones. Tell me, where do you want to go from here in terms of future improvements in? And then you're going to repeat back the end result of what you offer. Now, did you see my hands? Okay, I'm going to show you, like if they can see you, this is really important that you show this type of body language. So you've already reached these big numbers and milestones. I guess where do you want to go from here in terms of future improvements in? And then you repeat back the end result of what you offer. Okay, see, I start here. You've already reached these big numbers and milestones. Tell me, where do you want to go from here in terms of future improvements in? See, and I'm growing that. I'm causing them visually to see, oh wow, we've done really well, but where do we really want to be? Okay, now Here's how you want to do this. If the prospect tells you, you only ask that question if they tell you they're completely happy with who they already have, okay? And like I said, this would primarily be a question that you primarily use in a B2B situation. Now, I'll give you an example of, let's say, how we would use this question as a sales training company. And let's say we're talking to an enterprise Fortune 500 company like Google AdWords, one of our first clients as a B2B client. This is the same question I asked their boardroom, okay, when I presented in front of them. So John, and I mentioned the board, you guys have already reached these really big numbers and milestones with your salespeople. Where do you want to go from here in terms of future improvements in their sales ability so that your company starts increasing sales rather than just stagnating like a lot of your competitors are? See how that works? And they're like, well, we're already doing good, but we really want our salespeople to learn this, and we want them to learn that. And then I asked, well, hold on, why is XYZ important to you now, though? Like, why not push it down the road like a lot of companies would? Well, why is that so important to you now? Like, why not push that down the road like unsuccessful businesses would or unsuccessful companies works? Okay, see how that works? All right. So here's another way to do this. So back when you chose to work with company X, what was your selection criteria, if I could ask? So this is a two-part question if you sold B2B. I'm going to show you some B2C examples in a second. All right, so stay patient with me. So back when you chose to work with company X, can I ask what your selection criteria was, just so I have a better understanding? Well, yeah, we were looking for this and we were looking for that. Let them answer, and then you're going to ask this question. So in what ways has that possibly changed as you look at what you might need today, though? In what ways has that criteria possibly changed as you look what you might need today, though? And then they're going to say, well, if we could change, we would change this. Or we like this, but, and they're going to tell you something, and then you can probe off that, okay? Hold on, but why is that so important to you now, all right? Now, let's keep going here. I've got about 4 more questions here. I'm going to give you some B2C and a couple more B2B. So this question allows them and you to see and understand why their current situation, their current state, is different than when it was when they started working with the other vendor. Things have changed. It also opens the door for you to clarify and probe and help them find maybe new problems or challenges they didn't think they had. Also, when they tell you something they would change, like I just went over, you're simply going to ask an NEPQ probing question that pulls out more emotion on why they want to change. Plus, it helps build massive urgency for them to change now, not down the road. So if they're like, well, I mean, the criteria is still the same, but one thing that we would probably change is this. Okay, can I ask why you'd want to change that now, though? That's an NEPQ probing question, okay? Now, let me give you a few more questions you can use for both B2B and B2C. Now, if you could change one thing about who you're using now, if anything, what would it actually be, okay? Can I ask in what ways could your current company possibly do better for you than what they're doing for you now? Can I ask in what ways the vendor you're with could do better for you than what they're doing now? That's both a B2B or B2C example. Now, if it's B2C, you're going to say company. If it's B2B, more than likely you're going to say vendor. You can still say company as well, but you can use those terms interchangeably. Can I ask in what ways your company that you're with could possibly do better for you than they are now? Okay? It's a simple, neutral question. Now, I'm going to give you this really important question. I'm actually going to give you about 9 or 10 questions. I'm feeling really nice. The question I'm about to give you helps you ease in to letting your prospect know that they're making the wrong decision without them getting offended with you and without them feeling you are just trying to sell them. So let's say you go through your entire sales process, whether you sell B2B or you sell B2C, and at the end of that, they just say, well, I think we're just going to stay with who we already have. Well, what do you do then? Okay, here's the question you want to ask. It works every freaking time. Make sure you write this down. Of any questions I just gave you today, this is probably the most important, okay? Now, so if they said we're just going to stick with who we already have at the end of your presentation or your sales process, you're going to ask this question. Sally, how would I be able to communicate with you that you might be making the wrong decision without you getting upset with us? Sally, how would I be able to communicate with you that you might be making the wrong decision without you getting upset with me? Now, what do you think they're going to say? Nope, you cannot communicate with me without me getting upset at you. They're going to say, no, yeah, sure, you're not offending me. Like, what do you have in mind? That's exactly what they're going to say every time, if you say it with the right tonality. Thanks, Dave Prosser. I know you. John, how would I be able to communicate with you that you might be making the wrong decision without you getting upset with me? Oh, don't worry, I'm not going to get upset with you. What do you have in mind? It will automatically trigger them to say, oh, I'm not going to get upset with you. What do you have in mind? This really helps them view you as more of an expert in your field, okay? Let me repeat that again. Barry, how would I be able to communicate with you that you might be making the wrong decision without you getting upset with me? Notice the empathy in my voice. Notice my tone. I don't want to say, John, how would I be able to communicate with you that you might be making the wrong decision without you getting upset with me? It's not going to land as well. But if I slow down, Amy, how would I be able to communicate with you that you might be making the wrong decision without you getting upset with me? Notice my body language. Without you getting upset with me. Oh, don't worry, Jeremy, I wouldn't get upset with you. What do you have in mind? Instantly disarms the prospect. See how that works? All right, let's keep going here, all right? Now, I'm going to give you a couple more, and I'm going to give you about 3 or 4 different industry-specific examples on how to use some of these questions I just went over, so you can see how this works. Now, you can also use something that's called the 2 truths question. This is one we teach a lot to our clients in our virtual training courses and our group trainings as well that we do every week for our clients. Okay, 2 truths question. No one likes 100% of what they have or they're doing. There's always something they would change if they could. Think about the car you just bought 2 years ago. Let's say you bought a freaking $350,000 Lamborghini. I guarantee you 2 years later there's going to be something you don't like about that car. Even though you fell in love with it the very first day. 100%. There'll always be something you don't like or want to change. So this 2 truths question can be both used in B2C and B2B sales. So here's the generic version. So Sally, I mean, to me, it sounds like things are going fairly well with who you're already using now. I mean, is there anything you would change about who you're using or the results you're getting if you could? Notice my tonality. So John, to me, I mean, it sounds like things are going fairly well with who you're already with. I mean, is there anything you would change about what you're using with them or the results you're getting if you could? That question is almost like, well, why the hell am I even on this call with you? Everything sounds perfect. And they're going to say, well, we like them, but, and then there's always something they're going to want to change. Now, let me give you a few different industry examples. I'm going to give you a couple B2C examples, industries. I'm going to give you 1 or 2 B2B examples so you can see how this 2 truths question framework would actually work, okay? So let's say if you sold life insurance. So Amy, I mean, to me, it sounds like things are going fairly well with the company you're already with. I mean, is there anything you would change about the coverage, the financial protection that you have with them for your family if you could? So, John, to me, it sounds like things are fairly going well with the policy you already have. Is there anything you would change about your financial protection you have for the kids if you could? It's like, why the hell am I even on this call? Everything sounds perfect, okay? Now, I only need to ask the 2 truths question if they tell me they love everything about who they're already with. If they don't tell me they love everything about who they're with, I would never need to ask the 2 truths question because it wouldn't be relevant in that conversation, okay? Now, let me give you another example. Well, and they might say, well, we like it, but we would maybe look at, okay, but having that, why so important to you now, though? Why not just push it down the road like a lot of people would? Well, the reason why we need to look at it now is because of X and Y and Z. Okay, here's a B2B example. Let's say if you sold business consulting to business owners that helps them get better systems and processes to scale their companies. Train a lot of people in that industry. So let's say you're a business consultant. Your job is to cold call and prospect and get in with companies, SMB companies, and teach them the right systems and processes your company does to help them scale their business. Here's what I might say. Okay, so, I mean, Amy, to me, it sounds like things are going fairly well with the systems you're already using now. Is there anything you would change about the systems you're using or the results you're getting from those if you could? See my tone? Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, we like them, but if we could, okay, but getting those type of results, why so important to you now, though? Like, why not push it down the road like a lot of unsuccessful business owners would? Well, the reason why we can't push it down the road is because of X and Y and Z, and now they just told themselves why they can't push it down the road. Here's another example. Let's say if you sold medical device equipment and you're talking to doctors or admins at the hospital or the CEO of the hospital. A lot of times you're selling to the CEOs, not just necessarily doctors in medical device. Let's say if you sell knee implants, as an example. Train a lot of companies and salespeople in medical device too. So, Sally, I mean, help me understand. I mean, to me, it sounds like things are going fairly well with the implants you've already been using the past decade. Is there anything you would change about the implant or the results your patients are getting from it if you could? So help me understand. I mean, to me, it sounds like things are going perfect with the knee implants you've already been using. I mean, is there anything you would change about the implant or the results your patients are getting from it if you could? Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're really good, but if we could speed up the operative time, hold on. Speeding up the operating time. Why so important to you now, though? See, that's an NEPQ probing question. Now, if you're wanting to learn how to sell more of your products and services than you are now, join our free Facebook group. Go to www.salesrevolution.pro. We should have a link on here somewhere, salesrevolution.pro. Right when you join the salesrevolution.pro Facebook group, because we've got thousands of entrepreneurs in there, thousands of salespeople like you, thousands of coaches, consultants, executives in there that want to sell more. Right when you join, check your DMs, because we're going to message you. Some of my team's going to message you a free training called the NEPQ 101 mini course. It's going to give you a list of different questions and phrases you can use in any sales situation. That alone is going to help you sell more than what you're doing now. And we go live in the Facebook group about 3 to 4 times a week with different subject matter trainings, different Q&As, different client interviews that will also help you sell more. Join the Facebook group, salesrevolution.pro. See you there.